The Mediterranean sun cast a golden shimmer over Port Hercule, where luxury yachts rocked gently beside time-worn fishing boats. Among the well-dressed crowd on the marina's edge stood Elena Moreau, a local art history student with salt in her lungs and secrets in her blood. Her summer job at the Oceanographic Museum barely paid for her rent in La Condamine, but it gave her access to archives that few even knew existed. She'd found something strange 2 nights ago. A painting, catalogued as an anonymous 17th-century seascape, had an odd texture beneath the top layer. When she examined it under UV light, another image emerged, a map. Not just any map, but one marked with symbols, coordinates, and a faded crest that matched a forgotten noble family from Monaco's earliest days. That morning, as gulls cried overhead, Elena walked the marina, with the printout folded tightly in her pocket. Her heart raced as she approached the last boat at the end of the pier, a faded blue trawler named Le Fantôme, owned by an old man no one really spoke to. Etienne Blanc had lived in Monaco longer than anyone could remember. Some said he'd once been a deep-sea diver. Others swore he was exiled nobility. His eyes were milky with age, but his mind remained sharp, especially when it came to tales of the sea. "You're not the first to ask about the crest," Etienne said before she could even show the map. "But you're the first who might actually survive it." Elena froze. Etienne beckoned her aboard, and as the planks creaked beneath her feet, a low fog began to creep along the water. He poured her a coffee so bitter it could wake the dead, and opened a drawer full of tattered parchment, compasses, and photographs of the same crest etched into rock, submerged below the cliffs of Cap d'Isle. "The last one who looked for it drowned in calm water," he said. And the one before him went mad staring at its door. The door? Elena leaned in, but Etienne snapped the drawer shut. "That's enough for now," he muttered. "You need to decide whether you're chasing treasure, or awakening something that wanted to stay buried." She left the boat shaken, the map clutched tightly in her hand. Her phone buzzed with a message from her friend Marcelo, who worked nights as a junior security guard at the prince's palace. "Meet me at the tunnel below the old watchtower. Midnight. Bring the map. Midnight." The hour's secrets start to whisper. The ancient tunnel behind the prince's palace wasn't listed on any tourist map. It was a half-forgotten passage built into the rock, originally used by sentinels to patrol the perimeter centuries ago. Elena's footsteps echoed as she descended the moss-covered stone steps, flashlight beam quivering against damp walls. Marcelo was already waiting, his breath clouding in the humid underground air.
He took one look at the map and stiffened.
"This symbol here," he whispered, pointing to the faded crest, "matches an engraving in the old armory. No one's allowed down there anymore, but I've seen it. Same spiral. Same 3 dots. Elena unrolled the photo Etienne had shown her, an underwater carving in the shape of an open eye, etched into the seabed near Cap d'Isle. "Do you think it's a tomb?" she asked. Marcelo shook his head. "It's not a tomb. It's a vault. There's something inside." From the far end of the tunnel, a sound broke through the silence, something metallic, dragged across stone. They froze. Elena killed the torch. They stood in darkness, breathing shallow, until the sound faded into stillness once more. Then came the whisper, a single word, barely audible, slipping through the cracks in the old stone. "Elena." Marcelo turned pale. "We need to leave." But Elena stayed frozen. That voice, it belonged to her late grandfather. The next morning, Elena returned to the museum early. She needed proof, something tangible to separate madness from mystery. The underground archives smelled of dust and sea salt. Locked behind iron grates were private collections donated by Monaco's oldest families, documents, relics, and long-forgotten paintings. She bypassed the security system with Marcelo's borrowed pass and made her way to the sealed vault below the marine exhibit. Inside, a single artifact drew her attention, a rusted brass key with the same crest from the map, housed in a glass case labeled simply, "Unverified Donation, 1924. When she removed the case, a folded note fell from beneath the velvet stand. It was a letter. "For whoever follows the line of Moreau. The key belongs to the gate. You must close it, not open it." Elena's hands trembled. Her family name, Moreau, had not appeared in any museum registry. She had never told Etienne or Marcelo. Someone had known she would come. Someone had prepared this for her. She turned to leave, only to find the door locked from the outside. And something had begun knocking from within the walls. Etienne agreed to take them out at sunrise. Le Fantôme chugged slowly past the cliffs, where rock met turquoise water in silent defiance of time. Marcelo studied the sonar while Elena double-checked the coordinates. There, he said, pointing to a dark shape just offshore. It's hollow beneath. Elena suited up first. The water was icy even in summer, visibility poor beneath the shifting current. But there it was, etched into the submerged cliff face, the eye from Etienne's photo. It blinked as the current passed through carved lids of stone. She fitted the brass key into a hole beneath the sculpture. It turned, and the entire wall shifted. A current pulled her in. She spiraled through darkness, lungs screaming, before light returned. She found herself in a pocket of air, a dome-shaped chamber sealed in coral and bone. Candles floated upright in water along the edge, unlit, but not extinguished. A symbol burned faintly on the stone in front of her, the crest, but reversed. The gate was not meant to be opened. She surfaced gasping, only to find Etienne watching silently from the boat, his expression unreadable. Back on dry land, Etienne confessed. There was a time, he said, when Monaco was protected by more than guards. There was a society, guardians sworn to seal away what the first lords found beneath the city. He handed her a leather-bound book with the crest on its cover. Inside were records in old Occitan, rituals, warnings, and an oath signed by her ancestor, Clemence Moreau, dated 1621. The order had been called Les Veilleurs, the Watchers, and now they were all gone, except her. Marcelo found further documents hidden within the old chapel near the train station. Diagrams of tunnels, intersecting lines beneath the palace, the casino, and the harbor. Everything was connected. Someone else had been searching, and someone had recently torn pages from the book. The gate was weakening, and they were no longer the only ones aware of it. An anonymous letter arrived at Elena's flat. You are not the last watcher. Meet me at the opera house. Midnight. Come alone. She disobeyed immediately and brought Marcelo. The opera house was deserted, but on stage stood a man in a long gray coat and Venetian mask. His voice echoed eerily. I have protected the seal from within the circle. You have protected it from outside. The time of silence is over. Something is stirring beneath Monte Carlo. He handed her a vial of black sand, still swirling despite being sealed. When this sand no longer moves, it means the gate is open. Then, without another word, he disappeared into the catacombs beneath the theater, vanishing into tunnels not listed on any map. It began slowly. A fisherman vanished, leaving only his boat circling aimlessly. Then came the dreams, dozens of locals reporting the same vision. A door opening beneath the sea. A voice calling out. Salt water in their beds. Marcelo's sister collapsed during her shift at the Monte Carlo casino, whispering words in an ancient dialect no one could translate. And then came the fog. Not the ordinary sea mist, but a cold, still vapor that rolled uphill, against the wind, flooding the old town with a silence so thick no birds dared fly through it. Elena watched from her balcony, the vial of black sand now still in her hand. The gate had opened. Guided by Etienne's map and Marcelo's clearance, they entered the forbidden lower levels of the prince's palace, the parts built over Roman foundations, deeper than any official record admitted. Torches lit automatically as they passed, casting shadows that flickered against murals no one had painted. The deeper they went, the louder the sound grew, a low hum, like stone breathing. At the very end stood a door, circular, covered in symbols. The same as those etched on Elena's grandfather's war medals. She placed the key into the center. It opened, not outwards, but inwards, like the world was folding in on itself. Inside, time stopped. They entered a vast chamber where light seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Suspended in the center was a crystal orb, cracked through the middle, pulsing like a heartbeat. Voices whispered in every language ever spoken in Monaco.
Some warned.
Others pleaded. Marcelo approached the orb, and it responded. A vision burst into the room. Monaco, centuries ago, burning. The first watchers forming a circle. A sacrifice. A promise. Elena realized the gate wasn't to keep something out.
It was to keep something in.
And now it was escaping. The fog now covered all of Fontvieille. Lights failed.
People vanished.
Ships crashed into the harbor without warning. Panic spread, but Elena knew what had to be done. She had to become what her bloodline demanded, the final watcher. The orb demanded a soul to seal it again. But Marcelo pushed past her, tears in his eyes. You were meant to find it. I was meant to protect you. He touched the orb. Light shattered. The fog stopped. But he was gone. Elena emerged from the palace at dawn. Monaco was quiet again. But beneath the waves, the gate pulsed once more, sealed, but not silenced. And she watched the harbor. Forever.